Imagine someone loving you so much that after your death, they spend 22 years building the most beautiful structure in the world, just so your memory would live forever. This is not a fairy tale. This is the true story of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal, and of the monument that was born from that love, the Taj Mahal. When you first see the Taj Mahal, no matter how many photographs you've seen before, no matter how much you've prepared for that moment, nothing can prepare you for what you will feel. You stand at the entrance, pass through the massive red sandstone gates, and then, there in the distance, it appears. White marble gleams in the sunlight, as if it were made of light itself, not stone. 4 minarets stand like faithful guardians, perfectly symmetrical, perfectly positioned, as if protecting something invaluable inside. And indeed they do. They guard a story of love that was so deep, so intense, that it outlived death, outlived centuries, and today, nearly 400 years later, still compels people to travel from the other side of the world just to stand before it and feel its power. The Taj Mahal is not just a tomb. The Taj Mahal is a love letter written in marble, poetry transformed into architecture, tears turned into beauty. But to truly understand this monument, we must go back in time, to 17th century India, to an era of emperors and empresses, battles for the throne, and amidst it all, a love that changed the course of history. India in the 17th century was a place of incredible wealth and power. The Mughal Empire stretched across a vast territory, encompassing almost the entire Indian subcontinent. This was no ordinary land. This was an empire that controlled a quarter of the world's wealth at that time. Imagine courtyards decorated with gold and precious stones, gardens filled with fountains and exotic flowers, elephants walking the streets, carrying nobles in lavish palanquins. The Mughal emperors were known for their love of art, architecture, and beauty. They built palaces that took your breath away, commissioned miniatures from the finest painters, patronised poets and musicians. But the Mughal Empire was also a place of cruel power struggles. Brothers killed brothers, sons rose against fathers, and intrigues and conspiracies were everyday occurrences at court. In such an environment, love was a luxury that few could afford. Political marriages were the norm, and feelings rarely played any role in choosing a life partner. Emperors had numerous wives in harems, and true intimacy and connection was a rarity. And it was precisely in such a world, amidst all that wealth, power, and danger, that a love story was born that would outlive all emperors, all empires, and all the centuries that came after. Prince Khurram was born on January 15, 1592, as the third son of Emperor Jahangir. From an early age, it was clear that this boy was not like the others. He was exceptionally intelligent, ambitious, and charismatic. His grandfather, the great Emperor Akbar, loved him especially, and prophetically gave him the name Khurram, which means joyful in Persian, because he believed this boy would bring joy to the empire. Khurram grew up surrounded by the finest teachers, learning everything from the art of war to poetry, from mathematics to music. He was an excellent horseman, skilled with a sword, but equally showed a deep sensitivity to art and beauty. He was not a cold warrior like many princes before him, nor a weak aesthete incapable of ruling. He was a rare combination of strength and tenderness, ambition and depth. As a young man, Khurram already showed signs that he would one day be a great ruler. But fate had prepared something for him that would change him more than any battle or political victory. Something that would define his life and leave a mark on history that no war could ever leave. Fate had prepared for him a meeting with Arjumand Banu Begum. It was the year 1607, at a marketplace in Agra. Prince Khurram, then a 15-year-old, was strolling through the Meena Bazaar accompanied by his entourage. This marketplace was a special place, a place where silk fabrics, jewellery and perfumes were sold, a place visited by ladies of high standing. And then he saw her. A 14-year-old girl stood at a stall selling silk ribbons and pieces of glass, probably for amusement since she herself was a noblewoman. They say she was indescribably beautiful, but she was not just beautiful. She had something in her eyes, some fire, some depth, that drew the prince in and never let him go. Khurram stopped. In that moment, amidst the noise of the marketplace, amidst the people passing by, amidst the scents of spices and perfumes filling the air, everything disappeared except her. He asked who she was. He learnt she was Arjumand Banu Begum, daughter of Asaf Khan, an important nobleman at court and brother of the Empress's favourite wife. She was, therefore, from a powerful and influential family. But Khurram did not care about that. He did not see her status, her name, her family. He saw her. That evening, when he returned to the palace, the prince was a changed man. He told his father he wanted to marry this girl, and this was not a passing whim of a lovesick teenager. It was the certainty of a man who knows what he wants and will not give up until he gets it. But the path to the altar would not be simple. To understand why Khurram was so enchanted, we need to know more about the woman who would later become Mumtaz Mahal. Arjumand Banu Begum was born on April 19, 1593 in Agra. Her family was extremely influential, with Iranian roots and deep ties to the Mughal court. Her father, Asaf Khan, was one of the most powerful men in the empire, and her grandfather, Mirza Ghiyas Beg, held the position of prime minister. She grew up in wealth and luxury, but this was not spoiled emptiness. She was exceptionally educated, which was rare for women of that time. She spoke several languages, wrote poetry, understood politics and economics. She was not a passive ornament in a harem. She was a woman with opinions, thoughts, and ambitions. Chronicles of the time describe her as a woman of exceptional beauty, but even more exceptional intelligence. She had a gift for communication, the ability to make people feel comfortable in her presence, to win them over with her warmth and wisdom. She was, simply put, extraordinary. And Prince Khurram recognised this from the first moment. He was not just looking for a pretty face. He was looking for a partner, a soulmate, someone who would walk beside him through all the challenges life brings. In Arjumand, he found all of that and more. After their first meeting at the bazaar, a full 5 years had to pass before they could marry. 5 long years of waiting, longing, and hoping. Why so long, you might ask? Politics, as always. Court astrologers had to find the perfect date for the wedding, and that required patience. Also, Khurram had to marry another woman in the meantime for political reasons, as was the custom for princes of that era. But that first marriage was a mere formality. His heart belonged only to Arjumand, and everyone knew it. Finally, on May 10th, 1612, the long-awaited day arrived. Khurram and Arjumand were married in a lavish ceremony that lasted for days. He was 20 years old, she was 19. It was a wedding worthy of a future emperor, with thousands of guests, feasts that lasted all day and night, with music, dance and fireworks illuminating the sky over Agra. But amidst all that splendour, amidst all those people, there were only the two of them. And when Khurram first looked to Arjumand as his wife, He knew that every day of those 5 years of waiting had been worth it. He gave her a new name, a name that would forever remain written in history. Mumtaz Mahal, which means jewel of the palace. And indeed, she was a jewel, the brightest jewel that ever graced the Mughal Empire. What followed were 19 years of marital happiness that few can even imagine. Khurram and Mumtaz were not just husband and wife, they were best friends, allies, partners in every sense of the word. Unlike most Mughal rulers who kept their wives confined to the harem, far from public eyes and political life, Khurram included Mumtaz in all aspects of his life. She was his advisor, his voice of reason, the person he trusted more than anyone else. She travelled with him everywhere, even on military campaigns. While other emperors left their wives at home, Khurram could not bear the thought of being separated from Mumtaz. She was beside him when he led battles, when he negotiated with enemies, when he planned the future of the empire. Together they went through joys and sorrows, successes and failures, rebellions and victories. She bore him 14 children over those years, which speaks to the intensity of their bond, but also to the sacrifice she made for him. Every pregnancy was a risk, every childbirth was a fight for life. But Mumtaz endured it all with unparalleled courage and love. They say Khurram adored her so much that he never looked at another woman during their marriage. In a world where emperors had harems full of hundreds of women, Khurram had eyes only for his Mumtaz. In the year 1628, after years of fighting for the throne, Khurram finally became emperor under the name Shah Jahan, which means King of the World, and Mumtaz became empress. But she was not empress in title only, she was empress in every sense of the word. Shah Jahan gave her the Mut-Uzza, the imperial seal, which was the highest recognition of trust an emperor could give. This meant she had the authority to sign imperial documents in his name, that she was part of the decision-making process at the highest level. This was almost unimaginable for a woman of that time, and speaks to how much Shah Jahan valued and respected her. She used her position to do good. She helped the poor, founded schools, gave alms to widows and orphans. She was known for her mercy and justice. People loved her, not only because she was beautiful, not only because she was empress, but because she was good. And Shah Jahan, a king who ruled a vast empire, who had power over the life and death of millions of people, before her was just a man in love with his wife. They say he spent hours every day talking with her, consulting her on state affairs, seeking her advice. She was not just his love, she was his partner in ruling the empire. There is a story that perfectly illustrates the depth of their bond. Shah Jahan once set out on a military campaign, and, as always, Mumtaz was with him. The journey was long and arduous, and she was pregnant at the time. His advisors suggested he leave her somewhere safe, that he continue alone. But Shah Jahan refused. He said he would rather not go to war than be separated from her. This was not empty romance. This was a deep need of two people who simply could not function without one another. When they had to be apart, even briefly, Shah Jahan became restless, unable to concentrate. And Mumtaz, as strong and independent as she was, longed for him equally. Their love was not of the quiet type. It was fiery, intense, all-encompassing. Everyone at court knew about it. Everyone respected it. Many admired it, and some quietly envied it. For who would not want to be loved like that? In a world where love was a luxury, where marriages were contracts, where feelings were subordinate to politics, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz proved that true love can exist, even at court, even among kings. It was the year 1631. Shah Jahan was leading a military campaign in Burhanpur, a city in the south of the empire. Mumtaz was, of course, with him, as always. She was pregnant for the 14th time. 38 years old, 14th pregnancy, years of travel and hardship, all of it had taken its toll on her body. On June 17, 1631, Mumtaz went into labour. The delivery lasted for hours. Complications piled up one after another. Shah Jahan was beside himself with worry. A man who had led armies, who had conquered cities, who had ruled an empire, was now helpless. There was nothing he could do but wait and pray. The child was born, a girl they named Gauhar Ara. But Mumtaz was too weak. She had lost too much blood. Her body simply could not recover. In those final hours, Shah Jahan was with her. He held her hand, spoke words of love to her, begged her to fight, to stay with him. They say that in those last moments she told him her final wish. She asked him never to marry another woman, to take care of their children, and to build her a tomb so beautiful that the world would remember their love forever. And then she closed her eyes. Mumtaz Mahal, jewel of the palace, empress, mother, the love of Shah Jahan's life, died in his arms, in her 38th year of life. What followed was a grief that few can imagine. Shah Jahan, the mighty emperor who ruled millions, completely broke down. They say he shut himself in his chambers and did not come out for weeks. He refused to eat, refused to speak, refused to rule. When he finally emerged, people barely recognized him. His hair and beard, which had been black before, were completely grey. His face, once full of life, was gaunt and aged, as if he had aged 20 years in just a few weeks. For 8 days he wore white mourning clothes and refused all forms of entertainment, music, perfumes, lavish food. For 2 full years he did not wear jewellery or colourful clothing. They say he never laughed again the way he laughed when Mumtaz was alive. Yes, he continued to rule, continued to build, continued to live. But a part of him died with her that day in Burhanpur. Some said he was exaggerating, that an emperor must be strong, that life goes on. But how can you go on when someone has taken your heart? Shah Jahan was not acting out his grief. He was not using it for political purposes. He was simply a broken man who had lost the only person who truly mattered to him. But Shah Jahan was not the type of man who gives up. Even in his deepest sorrow, he remembered the promise he had made to Mumtaz in her final moments. She had wanted a tomb unlike any the world had ever seen, a monument that would last forever, and he intended to give it to her. Shortly after her death, Shah Jahan began planning something that would become his life's work. He summoned the finest architects, engineers and artists from across the known world. He described his vision to them, a mausoleum so beautiful it would take your breath away, so perfect it would seem as though it was not made by human hands. Some thought he had gone mad with grief, that it was an impossible undertaking. But Shah Jahan was determined. Mumtaz deserved the best, and he would give her the best, no matter what it cost, no matter how long it took. He chose a location on the banks of the Yamuna River in Agra, where the white marble of the mausoleum would reflect in the water like a mirror. And so began the construction of the Taj Mahal. Work on the Taj Mahal officially began in 1632, just a few months after Mumtaz's death. But preparations had started even earlier, while Shah Jahan was still in Burhanpur. The body of Mumtaz Mahal had been temporarily buried in Burhanpur, then transferred to Agra to be laid to rest in her eternal home once it was completed. The scale of this project was incredible. Over 20,000 workers were employed at the construction site, and some estimate that as many as 40,000 people worked on the project in various phases. These were not just ordinary labourers. They were the finest masters of their crafts: stone carvers, mosaic artists, calligraphers, gardeners, engineers. They were gathered from across the known world, from Persia, Central Asia, even from Europe. Materials were brought in from all corners of the empire and beyond. White marble came from Rajasthan, over 300 kilometres away. 1,000 elephants worked to transport this heavy stone. And this was just the beginning. The construction of the Taj Mahal lasted an incredible 22 years, from 1632 to 1653. 22 years of daily work. 22 years of investing incredible resources. 22 years of Shah Jahan's obsessive dedication to perfection. He personally oversaw every aspect of the construction. No detail was too small for the emperor's attention. If any element was not perfect, he ordered it torn down and made again. He spared no money, no time, no effort. It is estimated that the total cost of construction amounted to about 32 million rupees, which today would be worth several $billion. It was an enormous sum, even for such a wealthy empire as the Mughal. Some criticised the emperor for this spending, saying the money could have been better used. But Shah Jahan did not care about criticism. He was not building a tomb. He was building an expression of his love, and that love had no price. Every day spent at the construction site was a day spent with Mumtaz in a way. Every stone laid was a declaration of love. Every ornament was a verse of the poem he was writing for her. The design of the Taj Mahal is considered one of the greatest architectural achievements in human history. The chief architect was Ustad Ahmad Lahori, a Persian master who created something that surpasses everything that came before it. But the truth is that the Taj Mahal is the work of many minds and hands, a synthesis of Persian, Indian and Islamic architecture that resulted in something completely unique. The building was constructed on the principle of perfect symmetry. Everything is balanced, everything mirrors itself, everything is in harmony. The central dome is 73 metres high and is surrounded by 4 smaller domes. 4 minarets, each 40 metres tall, stand at the corners of the platform, slightly tilted outward. This is not a mistake. It is intentional, so that in the event of an earthquake, they would fall away from the tomb, not onto it. Even in the structural details, you can see how much thought went into protecting Mumtaz's eternal resting place. The gardens surrounding the Taj Mahal are designed according to the concept of Shahbagh, a Persian paradise on earth, with water channels representing the 4 rivers of paradise. Everything is symbolic, everything has meaning, nothing is accidental. The materials used in building the Taj Mahal are as impressive as the design itself. The main material is white Makrana marble from Rajasthan, known for its exceptional quality and ability to change colour depending on the light. In the morning, at dawn, the Taj Mahal has a pinkish hue. During the day, under bright sunlight, it gleams pure white. In the evening, at sunset, it takes on golden and orange tones, and at night, under moonlight, it looks almost blue, ethereal, as if made of moonlight itself. But the marble is just the base for what comes on top of it. A technique called pietra dura was used for decoration, which involves inlaying semi-precious and precious stones into the marble to create floral and geometric patterns. 28 types of semi-precious and precious stones are embedded in the Taj Mahal. Turquoise from Tibet, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, jade from China, carnelian from Arabia, agate, amethyst, coral. Every flower, every leaf, every pattern was carefully designed and crafted by master hands. They say that in some places, up to 60 pieces of stone are embedded in a single flower. Along the walls of the Taj Mahal are carved verses from the Quran, the holy book of Islam. This calligraphy is not just decoration, it carries deep spiritual meaning. The verses speak of paradise, of eternal life, of God's mercy. The calligraphy was created by Amanat Khan, one of the greatest calligraphers of that time, and he was so proud of his work that he signed his name on one of the entrances, which was a great honour. Interestingly, the letters at the top are larger than those at the bottom. This was done intentionally to compensate for perspective, so that when you look from below, all the letters appear the same size. This kind of attention to detail is present at every step. The entire complex is full of symbolism. The number 4 repeats, 4 minarets, 4 gardens, because 4 represents stability and completeness. Lotus flowers decorate the dome because the lotus symbolises purity and rebirth. Everything is thought through. Everything has its place and its meaning in this symphony of stone, light, and love. When the Taj Mahal was finally completed in 1653, the world was astonished. Nothing like it had ever been built. This was not an ordinary tomb, not even an ordinary imperial tomb. This was something that transcended its function, something that ceased to be just a burial place and became a symbol. Shah Jahan could finally lay Mumtaz to her eternal rest. Her cenotaph, the symbolic tomb, is located in the central chamber, directly beneath the Great Dome. The actual grave is below, in a crypt, according to Islamic tradition. Shah Jahan often visited this place. He would sit for hours beside her cenotaph, talking to her as if she was still alive, telling her about their children, about the empire, about his eternal love for her. For him, she had never truly left. She was there, in every stone, in every flower carved into the marble, in every verse inscribed on the walls. The Taj Mahal was not her tomb, it was her home, the place where their love would live forever. But fate had another cruel twist in store for Shah Jahan. In the year 1658, 27 years after Mumtaz's death, Shah Jahan fell gravely ill. His sons, always ready to fight for power, as was the tradition of the Mughal Empire, began competing for the throne. Aurangzeb, the third son, proved to be the most ruthless and ambitious. He defeated his brothers in a bloody civil war and seized the throne. And what did he do with the father who had raised him, who had given him everything? He imprisoned him. Shah Jahan, once the mighty king of the world, spent the last 8 years of his life as a prisoner in the Agra fort. Aurangzeb took away his freedom, but he could not take away what mattered most. Shah Jahan's room had a window that looked out onto the Taj Mahal. Imagine that for a moment. An old, broken emperor, imprisoned in the palace where he once ruled, now sits by a window and gazes into the distance. There, on the other side of the river, in the morning mist or evening glow, stands the Taj Mahal. It stands as a reminder of all he had lost, but also of all he had had. They say Shah Jahan spent hours gazing at the Taj Mahal, especially at dawn and dusk, when the marble changed colours and looked almost alive. In those moments, he could imagine that Mumtaz was still there, waiting for him to return to her. His daughter Jahanara, who stayed with him until the end, described how her father would talk about Mumtaz as if she was still alive. He remembered every detail of their life together, every conversation, every laugh, every touch. Love does not die just because a person leaves. It lives on in memories, in the hearts of those who remain behind, and sometimes it lives in stone. Shah Jahan knew this better than anyone. Shah Jahan died on January 22nd, 1666, in his 74th year of life. He was sick, exhausted, but they say that in the end he was at peace. He knew where he was going. He was going to her. He was buried beside Mumtaz Mahal in the Taj Mahal he had built for her. His cenotaph stands beside hers, the only element of asymmetry in an otherwise perfectly symmetrical building. Some said it was a mistake, that Aurangzeb had deliberately ruined the perfection of the Taj Mahal by adding his father's grave. But perhaps it is not a mistake at all. Perhaps it is the final proof of humanity behind all that marble and gold. A man loved a woman, lost her, spent the rest of his life grieving for her, and in the end, finally, he is with her again. Their graves lie side by side, forever together, as they were in life. Death separated them for 35 years, but eternity brought them back together. And every day, every year, for nearly 400 years, the sun rises over the Taj Mahal and illuminates their shared resting place, reminding the world that love, true love, really can last forever. Why does this story touch us so deeply, even today, 400 years later? Perhaps because all of us, deep down, want to be loved like that. We want someone who will see us, truly see us, for who we are, and love us anyway. Or perhaps, because of it, we want someone for whom we will be more than a passing episode, more than a casual acquaintance, more than a convenience. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz show us that such love exists, that it is not a myth or fairy tale, that it is possible between two real human beings. But it also reminds us of the fragility of that love. Mumtaz died at 38 years old, nowhere near long enough. Their 19 years together passed in the blink of an eye. This teaches us that we must cherish love while we have it, because we never know how much time we are given. Every moment with a loved one is a gift. Every conversation, every smile, every quiet evening spent together. Let us not take it for granted. The Taj Mahal also teaches us that love can survive loss. Shah Jahan continued to love Mumtaz for 25 years after her death. That love did not die with her. It continued to live in him, in every day he spent building her monument. Love does not stop just because someone is no longer physically with us. Today, the Taj Mahal is visited by about 8 million people a year. They come from all corners of the world, all faiths, all cultures, all ages. They come to see the beauty, to take photographs, to check off another item on their travel list. But when they stand before it, when they see that white marble gleaming in the sun, many feel something they did not expect. They feel love. Not their own love, not necessarily, but the love that created this place, the love that is woven into every atom of this structure. Shah Jahan wanted the world to remember Mumtaz, and he succeeded beyond all expectations. But perhaps unintentionally, he did something more. He created a reminder to all of us that love is worth everything. Every effort, every tear, every day of waiting, every year of building. Because in the end, when everything else disappears, when empires fall and kings are forgotten, love remains. It remains in the white marble stone on the banks of the Yamuna. It remains in the story we tell. It remains in the hearts of all of us who believe that true love, eternal love, really does exist. And perhaps that is the most beautiful gift that Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal can give us. The gift of hope. The gift of faith in love. Because if one man could love one woman so much that he spent 22 years building the most beautiful structure in the world for her, then maybe, just maybe, we too can find such love. Or better yet, maybe we already have it, and we just need to recognise how precious it is. Thank you for spending this time with me, listening to the story of the Taj Mahal. If this story has touched you, share it with someone you love. And do not forget, love is the only thing that truly matters in this world. Until the next video, take care and love each other.